Hi everyone. Today we'll be resuming our Angular portfolio series, and in this video we are going to focus on creating an HTTP client and using a JSON server. This is to make our expenses dynamic rather than creating them as a static. So without further ado, let's just move to. So in this video, we'll be discussing about the HTTP client and how we can use a JSON server to quickly save our database data on the server. Before diving deep into the solution, we need to identify what the actual problem is. Basically, our data, which we have created for the expenses, it's living inside the expenses.data.ts file. So basically, all the data is being pulled from there. So let me quickly show you that. So you can see over here within the expense.data.ts file. So we have created some seed data, which we were like pulling in our app. And when we used to like create a new expense, and once we refresh that page, all these IDs have been like gone. Let me quickly show you UI for this app as well. So you can see here, it's already hosted on this URL, public URL. You can access that. And with that being that there, so you can see all these expenses are here. And I can quickly move to the expenses list. And within the expenses, all the groceries and everything are there. So let me, if I am going to add any expense, so it is going to be like refresh. Once I refresh the page, it's gone. So let's just quickly move to our main topic. So what's the problem was that, which I've already discussed, it is going to reset on every refresh and there is no real backend. So only the seed database is there and no actual database do exist. How we are going to solve it? We are going to use an HTTP data flow. So what we are going to do, we are going to create a REST API, and the REST API is going to talk with the persistent database, and it pulls the data from that respective API. Then there is one more thing which we need to like discuss, because if we need to have a server-side application, so either we need to create certain APIs, or we might be writing an like application within Node.js or Express.js or any other API which being hosted on a server, and then we can use that. But here we do have an npm package which is called JSON server, using which we can quickly set up API server. So what does it do? Like it itself is an npm package, and what it takes, it just take a simple plain JSON, which I'll be quickly showcasing to you, and it quickly converts that into a REST API. So what does it do? We just have to create a db.json file, and it's like you can see, it's just a JSON file having an expense array and a limits objects. So we can run a simple command npx, and with that we can quickly set up. But instead we will be using npm, and then we are going to install that package. So this is just to showcase you in case if you need to execute that command. So once we have this up and running, so our REST API will be quickly ready, and it will be ready with all the sort of verbs like post, get, put, patch, and delete. Each type of like verbs are being actively available, and we can effectively use it within our application. So we do not have to explicitly worry about the backend. And how come the data is being saved? Once we save hit the save button, so this data is going to get automatically saved within the db.json file which we have created. So you can see, like as I just mentioned, we can have a get call being created, a post call is being there, even a put and a delete is being there. And it's not just for this expense, it's for limits. You can see there are like two main keys being used in the db.json file. So let's just try creating this file. Uh, let me just, rather than creating it right now, we'll create it on the go. So let's just quickly move further. And what does the HTTP client? Basically, HTTP client is a built-in service for making HTTP requests within Angular. And what does it do? It returns an observable. So, and what we are going to do with that observable, as we are using Angular version 21, so we are going to convert this observable to signal using toSignal function, which we'll be discussing. So let's just quickly discuss what toSignal is. toSignal itself is a utility that bridges observable and signals. So what does it do? You can quickly see, like uh, on our first line of code, we have a observable which is being returned by the get call to an HTTP API server. So basically, what we are initiating, we are HTTP get call on the API expenses, and we are getting an observable. And what we are doing, we are converting this to a signal. So this is the difference. And using toSignal, we are getting the specific toSignal. And as you might be like, if you are following along with me, so you might have seen that we have used signals in our video. And just to like you for anyone who is watching this video for the very first time, there are like 3 video parts I've already created. So I'll be showcasing the link over here on top of the video. So if you are like new to this series, you can start from the first part and then you can move along this way. You can easily get an idea what I'm trying to achieve over here. So we have initially used signals, then we have used reactive forms, and then we move further and we have created like certain forms. And post that, what we have done, we have segregated our components using the routing and the lazy loading. And in today's video, in the actual fourth part, we are focusing on the HTTP client. So with this being said, what does this toSignal is doing? Like it's nothing is going to get changed in the template because we are already using signals in our templates, and it's still going to read the expenses. But the now the actual data is coming from the API call. It's not being hard coded, which we were using previously. So you can see the new data flow is going to be previously what was actually happening. Seed expenses was serving the expense signal, and signals are eventually serving the templates. But over here, our JSON server API, which we have hosted, is going to get served via the HTTP client. And the HTTP client itself is returning an observable, which is again, we are converting that to like a signal using the toSignal. We are converting it to a expenses signal, and that's being consumed on the template. So what's going to get changed now? So what we are going to do, we are going to set up a JSON server and a db.json file, and then we are going to configure our HTTP client within the app.config.ts. We'll be discussing that. Then we are going to update our service because update services using the seed data. So instead, we are fetching the using the API call, and then the add and update limits are going to get updated because we need to like post or put the data on the server using this API. And then one more thing we are going to add is sort of loading of any error or any states which we need to showcase, because as we are consuming an API, there might be a possibility that API goes down or we might not be able to connect to the API. So there would be certain like conditions other than the heavy flow that we might need to take care of. So that's the reason we are going to quickly see how these error states are going to get handled. So with this being done, let's just move to our main setup. So what we need to do, we need to install the JSON server. And for that, we are going to use the npm install -d JSON server. The -d commands means it's more of a dev dependency. So it's only needed during the development. So not in production, we are just using it. And if need be, we might be upgrading it, but let's just keep this way. And this is the one thing. So let me just go to the VS Code. So I'm here on the server. So one more thing, let me just quickly do. So before doing anything, let's just quickly use git branch -a. and we are on main branch and everything is being pushed. And I want to create a new branch. So let's just use the get checkout function. Let me just exactly bring that command over here. So what we are going to do, we are going to create a new branch. So this time, as we are using an HTTP client dash JSON server, so I'm going to name it this way, JSON server. So this is going to be our branch, and let's just see on which branch we are right now. So you can see the green one over here. We are on this branch. So let me just clear this up. And now comes to the actual point that we were about to do. So let's just npm install dash t, and let's just quickly see the exact package name. It's JSON server. So it's JSON dash server. So let me just try installing it. In the meantime, where like this server is getting installed, so we need to create our db.json file. And this file needs to be created on the root of our project. So you can see we need to create it somewhat parallel to the source folder. So let's just create that file at the exact same level our package.json is. So let's just go to that. And this is a quick overview of how that file is going to be. So let me just create that db.json file. Okay, I'm here on the VS Code, and you can see this npm JSON server have been like installed. So with this being installed, so let me just create a new file. Now let me just call this a new file, and we are going to, it should not be here. It is supposed to be in this folder. So not even over here. So let me just create db.json. So you can see I have a JSON file. So let me just copy the JSON over here. Okay, so I have copied the copied the JSON within the db.json file. And you can see exactly this is the expense array. And over here within the limits, we are just having an object having multiple categories as a key and its values. And within the expense, we do have an array of objects, and each object itself has its own ID, title, category, amount, and date and note. So this is our sort of a JSON db.json file. So let's just quickly move further. So what this file is actually going to do, basically the JSON our server, the package which we have like installed, is going to read this JSON db.json file. And based on the keys that available to the very top level, like you can see, create REST endpoints from every top level key. So expenses, there are like the two keys which we have with ourselves is the expenses and limits. So we are going to get somewhat similar, which we have seen this image previously as well. So it's going to create the get and put and post function actions for these specific keys. So every time we are going to post or put, so on this using these APIs, JSON server is going to use this db.json file, and it's going to update that accordingly. We'll be looking at it once we'll be using this as a functional end-to-end project. So this is actually persistence. So in case if we refresh our app or do anything stopping the app and starting the app, so still the persistence is going to survive, and all the data which we have added is going to survive. So use this specific server, or I would say the JSON server, we have already installed the package, but we want this to be used using a specific key, like we are using npm start. Or so what actually npm is run start or npm start is doing, it's actually using an command called ng serve, which is specific to Angular. So on a similar line, within our package.json, we are going to add another key. We are going to call that API, and inside that we are going to keep a whole, I would say, the like this package name and the file name and the port that we are going to host on this server on. So let's just try creating this. So let's just open the package.json, and within the scripts, let's just try going over here. Let me just add the API, and what I'm going to use over here, you can see using this JSON server, and we are going to use this file, and again we are going to host it on the port 3000. So let me just save it, and what we are going to do, we are going to use the command npm run API. So let's just try opening a new terminal. And within this terminal, what we are going to do, npm run API. So let's just look at it, what's going to happen and how it's going to serve it. So you can see like a server is being run, and let's just try opening this. So let me just open it instead of here. Let's just use the browser. So the file was not saved, and let me just try running it. You can see like once the DB file have been saved, so you can see all the expenses are getting served. So we have done nothing but just install a package, and even the limits are going to get served as well. So you can see, and even we'll be using the post and other APIs. And one more thing, if let me just quickly show that to you, if we can use that. So you can see we are able to get a single expense as well, and we can get a list as well. So with this being done, let's just move forward. So you might have seen that we have used npm run API, and both server are running. Both server we haven't run the other server, so we just ran one server. And for our actual app, we will be using the same npm start, but we haven't done much of thing. So it's no need to run the main app because no modification have been done over there. So with this being done, we have already verified like the JSON server is working. We have tried visiting this, and the array and the limit both we have seen. And one more thing, which like the server is going to do when we'll be actually making a request from our like Angular app to this server. So it might be blocking that specific call due to like cross origin request. So for that, JSON server have automatically handled that, and it sets the correct chorus header on every response. So this way we do not have to explicitly cater that as well. So with this being done, we need to set up our HTTP client in the app.config.ts. So let's before diving deep. So what does it do? Like we can use HTTP client anywhere in the app. We need to register it with Angular's dependency injection. So what's the reason for doing it inside the app.config.ts? Like it becomes available everywhere. So what actually happens? We are going to modify the like app.config.ts from the one in the right and the left to the one in the right. So let me just copy this code and set it up in the app.config.ts. I've just opened the app.config.ts, and you can see it's a previous code. So let me use the new code. Let me copy that. So I have copied the code, and you can see there are like two things. We have imported this provide HTTP client, uh, and one more thing, we have also set up the provider as well. So with this being done, let's just move forward. So let's just quickly see what does it mean. Like the on top, what we have added provide HTTP client. Basically, this imports the function that registers the HTTP Angular HTTP system. So basically, this is the actual package where everything related to HTTP is being there. HTTP client is there, interceptors are there, request response types are there. Then comes the provide HTTP client. Basically, what does it do? It registers the HTTP client as an injectable service throughout the entire app. So we can inject it anywhere in the class. So without this line, any component that tries to inject this will get this error, like no provider for HTTP client. So this is setting it this HTTP client as an injectable service. So this is telling basically Angular make HTTP client available everywhere. So any class can ask for it and Angular will hand it over to it. And why we configure it here and not in the service? So we can do it in the service as well, but uh, rather than doing it at a service, we have done it at a app.config level, because this is the application root. So when it's being set up in the application root, this is going to be available to every component, every service and directive in the entire app. So no scoping issues are going to run, and it's going to run once, like once the app is bootstrapped and when the app starts. So this is created once and shared. So no duplicate instances are going to be there. And as we are using Angular v21, so in this version and moving forward, we are using this HTTP client. In previous Angular used like HTTP client module import in app modules. So that was a different story. So we will keep focusing on the most recent happening, and our focus will be on v21. Then comes one more thing, like we are going to use add fetch. So like v21 is going to support browser's native API, which is under the hood. Like instead of older HTTP XML HTTP request, we can enable this. So using this like import along with the provide HTTP, we can use with fetch as again, and this is going to make the performance better. And the Angular server side rendering also works well with this. So this is something just to add on top of that, and we might be using it or we might not be using. So this is just to let you guys know that this is more of a good habit to use this modern approach. So you can see in the third line in the code shown, there is a with fetch being available. And when we are setting up the provider client, so with fetch like is being called with that inside that. So with this being done, let's just move forward. So one thing which we need to understand, like within the providers, what is actually happening, we are every entry in the provider registers something with Angular dependency injection system. So we have three sort of entries. So basically a map Angular maintains of what is available to inject it and how to create it. So when a service or component asks for HTTP client via inject, then brackets, open bracket, HTTP client and close bracket. So what does Angular do? It looks in this map and finds the registration from the provide HTTP client, and then hand over that to the instance. Now, what we need to do, we need to update like expense service to fetch the API. So what we are going to do, we are going to replace the hard-coded signal initialization within the service. I'll be quickly showcasing that to you. What we are currently doing, we are setting the expense variable or the signal using the seed expense. So, and the seed limit. So these are going to get replaced with this API call, which we have already seen that using the toSignal. What we are going to do, we are using the toSignal. We are going to call http.get using the API URL. And what we are going to get, we are going to these expenses or limit. So this is going to provide us a signal. But one problem we might be facing, because every time like when we are going to add or update, we need to have this signal updated, because once we add an expense or update a limit, so actual data is going to get changed and we need the signal to reflect the change immediately. But what is actually happening when we do use this toSignal wrapping? So against a like single HTTP call, so it only load once on a startup and never refreshes. So to achieve that, there is another behavior which is called you can see that say that is a pattern using a subject behavior. So let's just quickly see what that is. So what we want to like refresh, when we want to refresh data, we can call this dot refresh dot next. So you can see like we can perform a trigger on top. You can see the refresh observable is there, and what it's providing the signal, and then we are sorry, the observable, and that observable we are converting to a signal using the toSignal. But there are certain additional things which we need to discuss before moving further. So what it's doing, like it's triggering a new HTTP request and update the signal accordingly. So what does this subject behavior subject is? So basically, as I just mentioned, this behavior subject is a special type of observable, which we already know RxJS is used. So it's being used with two key properties. And what does it have? Like it always have a like current value, like a plain observable, which only emits when something happens. So what does it do? It holds a value and emits it immediately to any new subscriber. So you can see like it's both an observable and an observable. So you can subscribe it like to it like an observable, and you can push any new value into it by calling .next. So what we are doing, we use a void as a type because we don't care about the value. So you can see in the behavior subject, you can see the void have been like used. So only we are being concerned that if it's going to get emitted. So switch map, if I can quickly show you where is that switch map. So over here, so this switch map where within this you can see in the third or fourth last line. So there's a switch map, and we are going to discuss what that switch map is. Again, this is an RxJS operator. What does it do? It's transform each emitted value into a new observable, and crucially cancels the previously inner observable if a new emission arrives before its completion. What does it mean? Let's say every time like refresh observable emit, what does like switch map cancels? It cancels any in-flight HTTP request and start a new one. So what does it do? Let's say there are like two refreshes which are happening like rapidly. So only the latest response is going to get used, and the previous have been like discarded. So what we are going to do, we are going to modify our like entire expense.service.ts file with the following code. And this is the code. I'll be quickly copying it, and then I'll be walking you through the piece of code in the VS Code. So let me just copy that piece of code. So I'll try to quickly showcase this you side by side. So on the left, we have our previous like file, expense.service file. On the right, we have added some new code. So we have like added this HTTP client, and the toSignal is also getting used. And then we have used the behavior subject on the switch map and the cache error. It's all from the RxJS library. And what we are actually doing, we have tried to inject this like HTTP client on somewhat a similar way. We have like injected our expense service in our components, and even the router which we have used in the previous like video. And then we have set up a like API URL. So this URL is going to be the API's URL. So we are keeping it as is hard coded over here. We can have it configurable as well. So for the time being, we'll be keeping it over here. Then comes the refresh trigger. So you can see, which we have recently discussed, like the behavior subject using void, and these are going to provide us these observable. And then actually comes the expense. If you can previously, like expenses was using this seed expense, and what it was doing, it was just using the hard coded data. But over here, you can see we are using the toSignal to convert all what have been the all the like the observable that have been written to us to the expenses signal. And one more thing, this refresh like expenses refresh observable is being used over here, and inside that you can see using the switch map we have our HTTP get, and within that expense URL have been hit. So expenses, all the expenses have been pulled from this, and like a cache is error is being used as well. So you can see this is going to return us a expenses signal. On a similar line, a limit signal is being returned as well. And What else we have just used? Selected category. Again, it's again similar. One, there are two more things which we are going to use in the further in the video is like showing a loading state and an error state. So we'll be using it further. I just quickly thought of quickly discussing it. We have set it over here, so there I'll be skipping that part. And what else? And within the ad expense, I'll try to discuss this at the time when we'll be discussing those methods. So with this being done, let's just move forward and quickly see like what this new piece means. So as I've already shown to you, like private HTTP inject HTTP client. So what does it do? Like we are injecting this HTTP client the same we have injected our own service previously using inject. Previously, I've also mentioned to you that in previous Angular version, constructor-based injection were like used. But with new Angular version and within the modern Angular ecosystem, it's been suggested to use Angular injection this way. So it's a private HTTP is equals to or inject an HTTP client. So this is working because we have already registered it within the app.config.ts. So it just sees the dependency ingestion map and headers the instance. Then come the API URL. What does it do? We have defined the URL once and everywhere within the app, we are going to use it. So whenever we are moving to a real backend, we can change it over here. So this is going to happen. And what every new piece means. So then we need to like quickly see any sort of a like catch error. So you can see the catch error just which I just mentioned. What does it do? If there is any error from the HTTP observable, so and returns the like fallback observable instead of like array. So it just create a observable that emits an empty array. So in case of any error, what does it do? It's going to like create an observable and which is going to emit an empty array and it's complete. So only that empty sort of a observable is being returned. So without this, what is going to happen? Like if like JSON server is not running and the whole entire signal chain is going to get crashed because that toSignal do require an observable, and if we are not going to return anything, so this is going to get crashed and app is going to show nothing. So this is the reason we are showing it, and at least the app will be gracefully showing an empty state. Then comes the initial value. So you can see like once we need or to like use a toSignal, what does it need? It needs an initial value because the HTTP request itself as async. So what is actually happening? There is a movement between app startup and the first response when there has no like signal. So once this call is being initiated, so there is at that point of time, there is no signal. So without this initial value, what is going to happen? The signal would be like sort of undefined and every expense call in a template would crash. So this is just telling it that rest assured an expense array is going to get returned. So what does it do? Like expense array is a type assertion, and what it's telling, trust us that this empty array holds expenses. So like this toSignal function needs to rest assured that eventually it's going to get an observable which is going to provide this like expenses. So this is the main way of doing this. So is going to be resolved into an expense array ultimately, not just an undefined in the like once the method is going to get completed. So with this being done, one more thing which we are going to see, and that's http.patch. So what does it going to do? So instead of using the put, what we are using? We are using patch, and the difference between these two is this: like what does the put do? Put updates the whole object. Like if I can quickly refresh your memory, like the post is used to create a new resources on the server, and if we want to update that resource, we are going to use the put action, and it's going to replace the entire object. And if we need to modify a certain attribute, so what we are going to use, we are going to use patch. What does it do? It merges the provided field into the existing object. And what we are going to provide over here, we are just providing a single category with a limit. So we are changing only one category at a time. So patch is the correct version, because we are not going to update the whole limits array at any given point of time. It's just only touching a single key, and it's like keeping the rest of the everything intact. So what this refresh pattern is doing, so let's just quickly recap that. So what actually happens when the app starts, so this expense refresh observable just emits. What does like it happens, behavior emits immediately, and switch map fire this http.get expense call. What actually happens, response arrive, the toSignal writes to expenses signal, and the template renders that. And if let's this was the app start case, but when the user tries to add an expense, what actually happens, a post call is being like initiated. And what does the JSON server do? It saves it's inside the db.json. And what does the subscribe callback runs? And what is going to happen, like this, the same observable which we have seen on the first line is going to call that next is being called, switch my again cancels previous and fire a new HTTP expense. And again, a new like data is being arrived the same way signal have been updated, and a template is being re-rendered. So this is the refresh pattern. So one thing which we are going to use, we are going to remove the old data imports from the expense.ts. So as we know, like on this service, we no longer need this expense.ts file. So we can remove it from there. And if the import is being, I think it's already been removed. If not, I'll go it and do it that way. And so we are keeping the file intact just for the reference, because we aren't deleting it, but we are no longer importing any static data. So on this server, we are like able to see this JSON loading in the dashboard and expense type. So let's just try running that and see. Let me just try doing that. Let me do one thing. Let me just go to the app. We are opening the terminal. So this one, the API is running. Let's just go over here. Let me just clear that. And we are going to call npm start. It is taking. We are facing certain errors, so we'll keep it here and we'll be moving forward. And then we will be looking at it later down the road. So let me just keep it that way. So before moving further, let me just add this handling and loading error states. So what we are going to do in our like templates, we need to assume that data might not be like available for a while. So we need to make it like visible or make it self-sufficient in a way that the user see that something is running, and we are going to properly showcase the loading state or error state or success state to the user. So this is something which we are going to add. So we need to update the service to like set the loading concurrently. And you might have seen we have already have the this loading function being used over there. So let me just quickly go within the code. So we have the expense services, and what we have done over here, if you can recall. So what we are doing when we are adding the expense, we are setting this as true. And what is going to happen once that addition is being done? So we are just setting this specific signal to false. Same is the case when using the update limit. Initially, we are setting it to true and then again to the false. So on in our template, we are going to quickly show that as well. So let's just move further. And what we are going to do, we as it's going to update the like expense and limit signal, we are keeping this like blocked as well. So let's just go to the expenses again. Where is the expenses? So let me just inside that, let me just add this before the, I need to update this code. So give me a minute. Let me just copy this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to update this refresh triggers till this expense and the limit. So what we have done, we have used behavior subject with void, and the is loading is being set over here. And inside that, again, we have used somewhat a similar way, and our limit and expensive have been updated. And what we need to add, like over here, so you can see we need to use a tab operator to set is loading to false, like when data arrives. So this is again an import from RxJS. And what does it do? Like it's update the signal, like toSignal to include a tab. So what we are going to do over here, you can see like within this code, like a tab have been used. So let me just update that. So I'm going to update this to use this tab, and import needs to be used. So I think I've missed the import. So let me just use the import from a tab. Now let me just quickly see. You can see the tab is working. Let me modify the limits as well. Moving further, what we need to do, we need to like modify our dashboard component as well. So what we need to do, we need to add this is loading or error lines over here. So, and the same needs to be done in the expense.ts and the budget.ts. So let me add it to all these TS files. So you can see I have added this is loading an error here in the dashboard. So let me add it to the other places too. So I've added it here too, and let me just do it on the expense.ts too. So with this being done, so I have it over here as well. So we have created this again, and what we are going to do, we are going to like add this to our templates as well. So we need to add a specific div for loading, and we need to add this on the outer div of each of our template. So let me just copy this code as well. So I have added in the dashboard expenses. Now let me just do it in the budget too. So with this being done, I'm going to add one more thing, and we are going to add a CSS over here as well. So let me add that too. So I'm going to open the app.cs, and let me just add. So active link is going to remain same. So I have added this active link, and along that there are like keyframes being added. So with this being done, let's move forward. So what we need to do, like when the add expense is going to like add any expense, so it is going to have its own state, because while the like post request is in flight, the button should show a loading state and disable itself, because we can't be adding other expenses while one is getting saved. So in this way, we need to somehow like change add expense in a different way. So let's just add this to the add expense TS file as well. So I've added this is loading over here, the add expense as well. So within this, we are going to change those buttons. So let me just add those action buttons, and I'm going to replace it. So we have our button with us. So this button text is going to get changed based on what loading is going to get written, and it will get back to the actual way when this is loading is done. And what is going to actually happen? This button is going to get disabled if there is an invalid or if a request is in flight. So this prevents the user from adding this twice. So let's just try looking at it and what we are facing. Okay, so I have done some mistakes, so I'll be quickly walking you through. and they were like this is loading was placed somewhat beneath. It is supposed to be here before it's being called. So that was causing some errors. So with this being done, so let's just quickly try adding an expense. Let me just add a new expense. It's going to be 150, and let's just add as a other and new expense. Now let me just add that. Let's see if it works or not. Um, Let me just quickly see if there's a new expense. So you can see we have a new expense. Let's just try refreshing this page. And you can see the new expenses is still there. One thing I'll be trying to see, let me just open that file. So I'm going to open this file. Now you can see over here, the new expenses have been added over here and a new ID is being generated. It's not exactly it should be, but again, you can see no date and everything have been added. So with this way, we are able to successfully like create our page. We'll be further improvising on this. There's certain pieces needs to be improvised, but at least you can see that certain code have been like added. And with this HTTP client and the JSON server, we are able to incorporate the get calls and the put calls, and those calls are getting originated. Let me quickly share you one more thing. Let me, if I go to the main, so let me just quickly show you in the network. So when I'm going to add uh like expense of food and call it 200 food, let me just add it. So you can see like what is actually happening. The add call is getting and the header. Let me quickly show you. This is a post call on the expense. And then you can see a get call is getting rendered. And if I quickly show you within the food, that expense of food is there with this 200. So this is the main reason we have like done the or completed this video so far. I am hopeful that you are able to follow along with me. We will be improvising on this in the further upcoming videos, and we'll be discussing these topics in detail, like observable promises and some other things. So thanks for watching. If you like the video, feel free to like and subscribe. And if there is something being missed, make sure to leave a comment so I can improvise on the upcoming videos. Thanks for watching. Bye.